You're right on the money. You know, that saying, man proposes, God disposes, could not have been truer with the announcement of the death of the former president, the immediate past president, Muhammadu Buhari, by his spokesperson, Garba Shehu. But it wasn't the, well, it was the biggest news yesterday, but also the passing of the Awujale of Ijebuland, Obasikiru Adetono, who also served on the throne of his ancestors for a grand 62 years, having taken the throne in the year 1960. So not only has Nigeria been thrown into mourning, but the people of Ijebuland, you know, who are all over the world as well, and who are also known by that great festival, the, pardon me now, it's fleeting through my head.
But festival.
Yes, that is one festival that the Ijebu people are known for. It is the Ojude Oba, when they come out immediately after the Salah holidays to celebrate and pay tribute, very much like what happens in the north of Nigeria as well. The Ojude Oba has also gained very strong prominence in recent times, especially in the advent of social media, and there's been renewed interest. But this year, it was the king was notably absent. The Awujale was not present for this year's Ojude Oba, perhaps as a result of, you know, his current health status. And clearly, you know, yesterday the news was also announced of his passing. These are the stories that we'll be tracking for you today, but certainly the biggest of them all, of course, is the president of Muhammadu Buhari, whose life and times is currently in reflection. And we're not doing that alone by ourselves this morning. We have with us in our studios Professor Khalifa Dikwa, who is a social commentator, a public affairs analyst, and a renowned expert in international relations. Professor Dikwa, it's good to have you in our studios this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Well, how did this news come to you? Because it would seem that it just came out of the blues, but clearly those who, you know, might have known the president, do you think that they had seen this coming?
No, because it was supposed to be a routine checkup. From time to time, he goes to London and so on. But this time, we heard it was about a clinic beside London, no longer the old one, the old place where officially he was taken there. But like that is how God takes away life, and nobody expected him to die, because he was actually much stronger than before he became president. After he was sick, he fell sick. Eventually, he became stronger, much stronger, perhaps even stronger than us who are below, who are younger than him.
Yeah.
So, but that is how life it is. We better do anything, an opportunity you find. Even if it is just 1 week, do the best for you. Don't postpone what you can do today for people to enjoy.
Indeed.
And don't listen to outsiders outside Nigeria, that we will talk about them much later.
Indeed. Well, the president did live a very fulfilled life, one might argue, pursuing his dreams, his ambition without any reservation, attempting to become Nigeria's president a record 3 times and only clinching it the 4th time, a time when people would have thought that he would have given up. But clearly, he did leave a lesson for us in resilience, didn't he?
Actually, we had a lot of change, aluta, we call it aluta, since he joined politics in 2003. So we had a real challenge in that there were some foot soldiers who used to even harass us. Some of us lost our job, including brigadier generals, colonels in the police, and so on. Even academics who are supposed to be free academically to talk were also victimized because we were out to change Nigeria. We had the plan for 6 months. We had the paper, the written paper for us who are actually the field soldiers. We wanted to change Nigeria within 6 months. With an example that if at all a major of sugar was selling for 100 naira, we wanted it to be 50 naira. But if people are hungry and they don't have even 50 naira, just write their name and give it to them for a period of 3 to 6 months. That was our original plan. But hold it, as soon as we got victory, the others, the gate crashers, left most of us at the gate, and they went in order to embrace those who fought us, and even include those who were never part of the struggle for all these years.
That was in 2015, you mean?
Exactly.
So, yes, people had great expectations of the president. And I think it was anything that he was acutely aware of.
Yes, we have the plan.
It was the you know, the expectations that Nigerians had of him and his presidency, the weight of what he had to deliver as president. But, you know, there will be a lot of, you know, questions, and there will be a lot of, well, I say mixed reactions as to how President Muhammadu Buhari managed his time in office, how he performed on the ballot, what he promised versus what he eventually delivered. We know that when he came in 2015, he was big on the economy. Well, he did mention killing corruption, security, and the economy. Let me put it in that order. Yes. Security, corruption, and the economy. On the aspect of security, how would you assess how he fared as president, especially in his, well, I say, his coming as a democratically elected leader? Yes. He said, I'm no longer military, so you shouldn't expect me to be there. Military, give orders, and it is done. Under democracy, actually, there are so many things that were brought in by infiltration under the what we call it, the imported type of democracy that had removed even the traditional values and traditional institutions, where the ward head has nothing to say. Somebody, a councillor, is much stronger than even the district head and so on. These were things that were brought in order to weaken the security system. They were the men, the real intelligence people. It was removed, and that was part of the plan that had been there along with DR Congo. And prior to the insurgency, that I was the first to have said it, that the plan had been there in the cooler, and Nigeria, they are waiting for the right people as in the government in order to implement it the way DR Congo, Kinshasa, is still fighting insurgencies with more than 100 or so armed groups because of the resources, not because of politics or anything that has to do. So eventually this thing happened. I said this one when I came back from studies abroad. I stumbled on the documents, we call them classified documents, then by my teacher abroad, who was actually more African than most of us. So that this is the plan for Nigeria. Make sure you don't take this kind of people to allow them to be your leaders, to allow them to be your governors, particularly if you are from the north. Now that you are from the northeast, and the other one is the northwest, in the middle, and so on. So if you get somebody who's perhaps who's not courageous, who's not brave, who has some personal interest to protect, then you are in trouble. So that was the advice given to me by my teacher back in 1984. That is 41 years. Wow. 41 years. The president clearly did not have any interest to protect it here in his time as president. He had no, it was, sometimes I was even thinking that, are you sure he is not bewitched? The way he was taking things easy, urgent issues were taken just up to the extent he was called Baba Go Slow. So it was abnormal. And he was aware of the epithet. Yes. We had a plan. The plan written there is different from the manifesto that others, the likes of Ademoali and so on, were doing differently. But the academic side and intelligence side were different. Our own has been there, written. But all these things perhaps went to the shelf and still gathering dust. It was unfortunate that the real soldiers, foot soldiers, were not taken along. And I'm not the only one. Most, 90% of the foot soldiers from abroad, from within, and so on, were left where they were. So some had to even dispose their little asset in order to purchase certain things like handset to distribute in order to coordinate
the elections and so on. Those resources went. We had sleepless nights, sleepless nights writing and talking in Borno, in Kaduna, and so on. We had the instance where we thought if we don't change this system that has already surrendered to outsiders, we are all in soup, because no part of Nigeria will be okay. Therefore, we had to fight it within a short time. Even if they're going to apply certain sanctions, we have to be ready for that sanction, because they are likely to lie against us the way they lied against Abacha. Eventually, about the, what you call it, Abacha loot and so on, big lies, deceit, the concoction. It was that money was deposited in the name of federal government, and nobody else could have done it. And it was the likes of ministers and Hamza al-Mustafa who went to open. He had never traveled out, Abacha never traveled out. And those monies were there because on the advice of Gaddafi himself, who came to Kano, advised him, because he said, I'm also in the storm. And you better find something to execute in Liberia and so on. That was the initial thing. Even the former chief of staff even confirmed it. Bamayi, General Bamayi also confirmed it. And why? As soon as somebody came, they said, revoked the agreements with countries that are not in the West. The agreements to pay them with crude in the long run, and then to have modern railways across Nigeria, fix electricity within 6 months. If it is not possible, get big, huge generators in order to help people enjoy before the fixing is done. Basic, beautiful things for Nigeria on that basis. But all this went, some people in the government revoked it officially in the name of government, and then took it away to America and UK. And that is, the rest is history. How can you say these things personally stole money? And that is done in the name of Nigeria.
Prof, so...
He is dead, just like Buhari is dead. Some of the things will eventually come out. Whether he was bewitched, Buhari, whether bewitched, or he was unaware, as he always said it, or he was completely cut off from the events around him and so on.
Well, we do know that if there's anything of remember about the president, were some of the interviews granted by Mrs. Aisha Buhari while she was also in office, making reference to some of the things that you have said about those who fought with him, you know, not being present in government. So there is that, and I'm sure that, you know, and there will be many other things that will come up. But let's quickly take a look at some of the tributes now that have been paid. The first one is from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who says that he calls President Buhari a very core patriot, soldier, and statesman. He says his legacy of service and sacrifice endures. He served Nigeria with unwavering dedication, first as a military leader from January 1984 to August 1985, and later as a democratically elected leader from 2015 to 2023. Duty, honor, and a deep commitment to the unity and progress of our nation defined his life. Now, there'll be questions about this issue of unity, which we'll come to much later.
And the rule of law.
And the rule of law, which, you know, but these are the words of tribute which the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu paid to the late President Muhammadu Buhari. He's also asked the Vice President, and we understand that this morning the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, has arrived in London to carry out the assignment of making sure that the President's body is brought back home safely. Those are the visuals that we received this morning of Vice President Kashim Shettima landing in London, being greeted by very senior officials of Nigeria, including, we see there, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Tuga, right there, as well as a number of other senior Nigerian officials, as well as I think we can also see the Chief of Staff, Gwemi Gbajabiamila. Those are recent developments. Clearly, the president's demise is a developing story, and there will be many parts of it which we'll be bringing to you as the day progresses, the days and weeks. I believe that the funeral, will be getting very soon. What the funeral arrangements will be. President Muhammadu Buhari is state property.
Yes, state property.
It is state
but
property.
He will be buried in his home town, Daura. But the state can take it, give it a state burial, as it were. Possibly, Daura or perhaps the government may decide to do something else for him. But he preferred Daura to be buried there. And secondly, we can see this, our people in black. This is, normally we'd never criticize the dead, normally. But he was a government, he was an authority in the entire continent. There were certain things that were done in his name. But he did not have the intention, but they always talked about a particular law that you read, a law that misinterpreted to make certain things look different. We had so many instances during Buhari's 8 years. Hardly did we had instances of arresting people or perhaps even insinuating or doing certain things in the name of politics. He allowed people to say what they, but he hardly responded. But today we had certain people, also call them, sometimes I call them greenhorns, because they still don't believe that we are in a democracy. They create problems for X, Y, Z, and so on. But democracy doesn't grow without a criticism from outside, not necessarily the opposition. Well, when you have come to serve, you should accept the criticism, follow the criticism. If they were ideal, you go and correct them. That is how it is done, but not to shut everybody out as if you are an emperor. Some of the governors are emperors, actually. I call them emperors for 8 years because they hardly forgive, they hardly tolerate, and so on.
Well, we'll talk about the president's democratic credentials as we progress in this program, but let me quickly take this tribute from Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who served as his vice president and also had, the privilege to act as president while the president was ill, in his tenure abroad. Yeah, so President Professor Yemi Osinbajo says Nigeria has lost a true patriot, a man whose life was marked by unyielding devotion to the nation he loved. President Buhari's legacy will endure as a testament to the nobility of public service, defined by honesty, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to the public good. These are the words of Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who served as his vice president. And also we have this from the president whom President Muhammadu Buhari defeated as incumbent. President Goodluck Jonathan has also paid tribute to the passing of President Muhammadu Buhari. He says, it's with a heavy heart and profound sense of national loss that I received the news of the passing of former President Muhammadu Buhari, who died at the age of 82. He also says President Buhari was a notable leader, patriot, that word again, an elder statesman who served our beloved nation as both a military head of state and president to the best of his abilities. He says he'll be remembered as a courageous leader, a disciplined officer, and a committed public servant who made considerable contributions towards the peace and progress of our dear nation. Well, these are not the only presidents who have been speaking. President Olusegun Obasanjo also granted a little interview expressing his own tribute on video to the passing of late Muhammadu Buhari. So you can hear what he had to say.
he tried his best. My prayer is that God will forgive him of his inadequacies and accept him into his kingdom. It's a loss to the nation, because at a time like this, we need the totality of the experience and what I may call statesmanship of all those who have had the opportunity to run the affairs of this country in the past to get us out of the situation we are in. He will be sorely missed, and may his soul rest in perfect peace.
And I guess we all can say amen to that.
Amen.
Well, he's also in the line of people who have paid tribute. General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, retired, has also paid tribute. And he, for those who remember, overthrew the military government of General Muhammadu Buhari in 1985. But clearly that hasn't stopped him from paying tribute. He says our paths crossed in 1962 when we both joined the Nigerian Military Training College in Kaduna. From those early days, Muhammadu Buhari stood out, quiet yet resolute, principled yet humble, deeply patriotic and fiercely loyal to Nigeria. Through the years, we shared trenches, trials, dreams and disappointments, victories and moments of reflection. He says in the course of our long careers, fate placed both of us in leadership at different times and in very different circumstances. But in all, Buhari remained consistent in his belief in integrity, order, and the dignity of public office. He served Nigeria with a deep sense of responsibility and unwavering commitment, even when the road was lonely or misunderstood. He says he knew him deeply as a deeply spiritual man, a man who found solace in faith, and who carried himself with the humility of someone who believed in a higher calling. We may not have agreed on everything, as brothers often don't, but I never once doubted his sincerity or his patriotism. That word has appeared so many times in almost all, if not all, of the tributes that we have read of President Muhammadu Buhari. So a lot of people saw him as a patriot, as somebody who believed very strongly in Nigeria and its unity. However, I think it was what our data analyst yesterday who was saying that, the memories of President Muhammadu Buhari will differ depending on the part of the country that you're from. For those from the southeast of Nigeria, for instance, where there were agitations for separation, etc., how do you think that they would remember the president at this time?
Listen, Malcolm, I will tell you that those who are talking about separation are just playing games. Today, for instance, the other parts of the north, of Nigeria say, please give it to them, it won't happen. They will not come because they are all over the nation.
Yes, indeed.
They are all over the nation. They have assets, unlike what others don't have at home. They don't give it to them. They get it from others. Lagos, North, everywhere.
Now, the point I'm making, Prof, is that some people say that these agitations are just a cry for inclusion. That's what a lot of people have said.
They are not different from Boko Haram. The sources in terms of funding from outside. Biafra itself, the name Biafra itself is a combination of Bia in Igbo. These are my people. I did my NYC there until even the coup was in 1985. August, I was in my NYC there. I still have people who are deeply patriotic and nationalistic in Nigeria, and they wanted to remain unity. The more we are, the better we have in terms of resources, both human and
the point I'm trying to...
It is a game.
The question I'm asking is, do you think that President Muhammadu Buhari handled that part of his legacy well?
There are always devil advocates within the system. Always within the corridors who will do the wrong thing. Even if Buhari will say, okay, these are the needs for the defense. Buy this, buy that, so that the insurgency is completely wiped out. But the devil's advocates will go and do something else. Until today, we are still talking about why is it that the insurgents have better weapons than Nigeria as a whole. Nigeria is not a small country. Nigeria is much stronger than most of these European countries that we are talking about. Nigeria is not a small country that anybody will toy, and no country or government in this world that will talk of Africa without, first of all, talking through Nigeria and how to control Nigeria. To control Nigeria in order to block it from fixing the basics, the likes of refineries, for instance, when money is out, but it is not done. Because the food soldiers are there, so that the refineries are not fixed, they keep importing. Imagine this is the oil is yours. It's a right for Nigerians to have subsidy. And those people outside are telling all these foreign institutions are saying, but borrow more, and they will tell you the opposite of what they do at home. They subsidize energy, they subsidize fuel for the people up to 80–90%. Why are they telling Africans the opposite? Nigeria is now #1 in terms of oil. Angola, the same thing. Angola doesn't have functional refineries just like Nigeria. The game is there. So the same thing with electricity. If we have the two going easy for manufacturers in terms of energy, Nigeria will do magic. And that Nigerians who are abroad now doing it for other countries will eventually come back home. That is what they don't want.
Professor Dikwa, clearly, you know, when we talk about Muhammad
They call
Buhari,
it conspiracy theory, but it is real, Maupe, that Nigeria is a big country. It's not a joke. It is only the brave. If you want to rule Nigeria, you must be brave.
I'm going to ask
courageous.
you, how would you remember how, I mean, I know that you knew him personally as a friend. You talked about your battles together before he, you know, entered and became president eventually. How would you remember President Muhammadu Buhari?
I still remember that he had good intention for the country. Taking it further from the days of Abacha in terms of fixing the thing, paying partial, what we call a partial funding, deposited in a foreign country, Switzerland, for instance. And then eventually, with his death, that people are still asking questions, all the things were filibustered, completely torpedoed in order to block Nigeria from getting the basics. And therefore, as Nigerian, to be a leader, first of all, you should be surrounded by patriotic people, nationalistic, who know the international politics, how to not allow Nigeria to fix the basic. As a leader, if Nigeria fixes its basic, Nigeria will lead other African countries to also free themselves from the colonial hands that are still, particularly those French-speaking. From time to time, they invite me to go and give them lectures in France. But I tell them the truth that those countries under France are still not, they are not independent yet, because the resources are all in France. They only give them 15%. If it is not enough, they go and borrow their own money.
So clearly, as President Obasanjo just said, I mean, he has passed at a time when all hands need to be on deck, so that, you know, whoever, as the president, Tinubu is in power as we speak, you know, he shouldn't be making the mistakes.
Not necessarily so. We have Nigerians, brainy Nigerians, young and old, who can do the thing. Just get a cabinet of who is who are likely to be much smarter than you or more patriotic than you. Whether you are in office or sick or anywhere, things will work. But in Nigeria, for instance, it is just when the president travels, the whole government, President Tinubu, when he travels now, everything is in lull, as if nothing. It's not correct, because you must have friends who are, as ministers, who are supposed to be strong, who know their onions. But some of them are lobbied from outside in order to keep derailing Nigeria, to delaying things from happening. And therefore, eventually, personally, I think the younger ones are doing it now. They know the games, because thanks to social media that connects us to Americans, to Chinese, to everybody we are talking. Some of the white people are even more patriotic in terms of saying, as long as Africa, particularly Nigeria as the first country, is not fixed, is not allowed to be in peace, so we will continue to have migrants. And they will even die in the sea or die in the Sahara. They will not stop. Europe will never be in peace.
We hope that, we learn our lessons and that, the legacy of President Muhammadu Buhari is truly celebrated. We have to thank you very much for coming on our program this morning. Professor Khalifa Dikwa was a social commentator, a public affairs analyst, and a renowned expert in international relations. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise.
Thank you all, Maope.
Our condolences
to you,
to you.
Yes.
Yes, our condolences to you.
I will see Ayo over there and
yes.
Coyote, and so my people, and Geoffrey. I greet you all.
Thank you so much for coming on the program, Prof.
Thank you.